Right then, I think this is the first time I've done like a Q&A sort video. In the comment section of the last Mice and Makar upload, although I guess not the last one because the behind the scenes one went out the other day, but the actual last episode, I'd put a comment saying that if you've got any questions about Mice and Makar or My Winter Car, then just put them in there. And I think there was like 60 questions-ish, so this is potentially going to be a long video because I have a tendency to just kind of ramble. So this is either going to be a really quick video or it's going to be a really long video. And also there was a few questions in my return upload as well, so I'm going to go through those first because I don't think there'll be that many in there, but then I'll get through the bulk of them afterwards. Do you have confirmation on whether or not George will make videos on Mice and Makar on his channel? Well, that was confirmed. When was it? Yesterday, as of recording this? I already knew that he was going to do that anyway, and I think I'd spoken about it a little bit to people, either in the Discord server or just in general. But yes, he's going to be doing, I don't know how many episodes, but a series on My Winter Car. Hi Cam, have you met George before IRL, before filming the My Summer Car thing? Yes, I've known George for like 11 years? No, 12 years. Something like that? Yeah, we went to the same high school, so we met through a friend, and then now we've just been talking to each other since then. Have you or George thought about re-uploading all the My Summer Car vids into one long video like a movie before My Winter Car? So it's kind of tricky with that kind of thing. Yes, in an ideal world, I would want to have an upload that has got all of George's ones and all of my ones. However, in terms of like the fact that he's made all of those and I've made all of these, it's tricky to be able to put that all on one channel rather than spreading it between the two. I've said to George before now that it makes sense for him to do a bulk upload of the first 10 that he did, and then it makes sense for me to do a bulk upload on the ones that were my story. He never really seemed that bothered about doing a collection upload, but I do think it would be a good idea for him to do. However, with my stuff, I am actually going to release like a full movie length sort upload. So it'll be from the point of George leaving Finland that first time, you know, where he was in the plane and after the car crash with the Supo, and then it went to him coming to my house. So it'll be from that point up until the last episode that went out last week. And then that'll go up on Saturday or Sunday. One of the days. Make merch about My Summer Car history. What do you mean by My Summer Car history? Do you mean as in our lore, or do you mean the game's history? I know there's a bit of overlap with some stuff, but one thing that I did see was someone, or maybe a few people, wanted an actual IRL We Do It button. If you've seen the final episode, which I'm guessing all of you have if you're here, then there is a scene where there's a George variant, I guess. I don't want to use that word because then it sounds kind of marvelly, but it is essentially a variant. And he has a button that says We Do It instead of him actually saying it. So it would be cool having something like that, but I feel like that's more George territory. I know that I've done a lot of the world building side of stuff, but it's at the end of the day, it's George that started it. So I think if it comes from anyone, it's going to be from George. Right then, so that's all of the ones from that return upload. So now I'm going on to the main questions that are from the actual upload. Will you ever summer your car? Huh? Do you love me?
Who the fuck is that guy? Who the fuck is that?
Why is the Supo hunting everyone down? The Supo's kind of like the in-universe police, but they're also a somewhat real-life organization, government. So I guess in a way it's like it's kind of like a corrupt government in a way, because they have like their own line of soldiers and stuff and people that are higher up and lower up, kind of like the superior compared to the normal agents. The Supo can, like, the agents themselves somewhat go on their own things, but the superior is the one that's in control of the whole thing. So why are they hunting everyone down? I guess because of the superior, if that's a proper answer. I don't really know how to answer it because it depends. So George will continue the series. As I said earlier, he will continue My Summer Car as a My Winter Car, but I'm not going to be in any control of the story part of it. I might still appear as the characters that I've made, so like Superior or like my own character, or if I need to voice the horror me, maybe, but I don't think I'll need to, and a few other characters. But in terms of actually like sitting down and writing a story for an upload. I finished that last week with the last upload. I might come back to it at some point, but my plan is to just focus more on building the channel through like consistent uploads rather than spending 2 months on something just for it to then be one upload's worth. Even if it's really, really good, I feel like it works out better for the channel growth wise if I just like am consistent rather than focusing on one big project every 2 months. How did you guys come up with an idea of the story for My Summer Car? So it was something that kind of built over time. Back in, when would it have been? Towards the end of 2023 or maybe the start of 2024, George was saying that he didn't really want to do too much with the series anymore, so he was going to bring it to a conclusion for like his first 10 episodes. And there was an idea that we could do like a multiplayer upload on My Summer Car, like MP or whatever it's called. I can't remember what the actual thing is called. But anyway, yeah, there was a rough idea that we wanted to do something that was like a multiplayer sort of thing. So that was one upload sorted. But it was just kind of like, how do we get there? Because yes, I could have started it as just like straight away, I have my Grog character, and that's just kind of how it starts. But I kind of wanted to make it a thing of like, okay, well you've built your whole thing of being this drawn character, and I'm building my whole thing of being an actual just me. So trying to find like the like middle point between how do you make the human the Grog character, and that's when I came up with the idea of basically having this like middle ground where it's kind of like the first 10 episodes was somewhat in the real world, and then whenever it would be my like Grog character, it would be within like this game that the Supo had created that was kind of just like a prison to keep people in. If you've ever seen Agents of Shield season 4, I think it is, there's like a storyline towards the end of that series where they're in like this fake reality, and that was kind of somewhat where I got the idea of the Supos game from. So yeah, the Supos game was basically a storyline that was created to bridge the gap between me being me and me being a Grog character. After we'd done the multiplayer upload, it was then like sort of wanting to build the characters around George, and the main person that was around George that wasn't me or George was Agent 27. And then that's when I started doing the stuff with the Supo files. If you haven't seen the Supo files, that's basically like the backstory of Agent 27. When I was thinking of like how to start that upload, I knew that I wanted it to be that the Superior they're basically like growing or using some kind of method, which I won't go into in case it gets like developed storyline wise, because there is a somewhat idea as to where we can go with that. But it's basically I wanted the Superior to be the person that was creating these agents that then he would use to send off and do whatever he wanted. Some of the agents are better than the other agents, but it's kind of just like building this world of the agents don't really know what they're getting into the whole time, and some of them just fall in line and some of them don't, and that the person at the top is just completely corrupt, that like he has a somewhat moral but also just doesn't care at the same time. Like he's the kind of person that would say he's doing the right thing while doing the wrong thing just because he wants to get more power. And the like little pod things that the Supo grow in, that was kind of like a reference to the Matrix, kind of. That's like what I was picturing when I wanted to make that. I think I even sent some reference images to George, and it was of just like this pod thing that like a human would get out of, kind of like in the Matrix. This is a really long answer, by the way, so sorry about this, but just go with me on this. One thing that I really wanted to do was kind of dive into the horror side of things, because I've said this to a few people, but I kind of feel like I do better when I'm focusing on something that is not comedy, because comedy is really easy to do. You just go ha 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 ha, we do it, and then laugh, whatever. But it's really interesting to dive into other stuff, so scary stuff, emotional stuff. Like, that's where I think I work best. And I'd already planted the seed of the horror me's at the end of the multiplayer upload when I like got out of the game. There was like a flash on the screen that was of the horror me. And then in the super files, we kind of like dive more into the fact that they're created through electricity, which then goes back to the fact that I was like shocked out of the Supos game. And I really enjoyed like making 27 as a character someone that like, because before the Superfires it was that he's the villain, he's going after them, that's it. There isn't really much to go off. But the Superfires kind of show that he's not really the villain, he's just someone that grew up in a world on the wrong side of things and then is kind of fueled by vengeance because George had killed his friend in that car crash. And one of the coolest things that I got to see as someone who created that was comments of like, oh, I kind of just thought he was the villain, but now I feel like George is kind of the villain. And it kind of like creates that strange grey area of like, who do you want to support? Because if you view it from one thing, it's that 27's the villain because he's going after George and he's just trying to get him. But then if you view it from the other side, it's that, oh, well, 27 lost his friend because this person has killed him and now he's going to try and like avenge his friend. So it's like, what side do you want to be on? And then from the point of the Superfiles onwards, that was kind of me then creating a close for the series. I know that like I'd only just started going properly into the lore by that point, but that was the point where I then started to find ways that I could make a story to end like my chapter of stuff, because by that point I'd done, I think I was like halfway through in terms of the amount of uploads I'd done, because I'd done the first one, I'd done the skit with like the John Law character, the multiplayer one, Super Files, and then after that one is the horror me one where me and 27 are back in the Supers game. There was a couple of George uploads between that, so we're technically like 6 episodes out of 10. So I wanted to try and find a way to start to find the end of it, and that's when I kind of came to the conclusion of like, because George and my character are very separate by that point, I wanted to find a way to bring everyone back together. So the easiest way for me to be able to do that, and how George wanted his character to end as well, which was being shot by 27, it made sense that me and 27 would also then get killed in some way, and then we get brought together through the Limbo story. And that like final few episodes, it was originally going to be more. It was going to be 5 parts. I think at one point I'd said it was 7, but I'd got it down to like 5 parts. So the horror me one, where like we're in the Supers game and it's all red. Then the Limbo one where we make the car. Then that one ends where it's like, oh, we're gonna have to win a game of Fortnite. There was originally an episode where we do go into that, and it was 27 gets shot by George with like a Fortnite pistol, and then me and George are stuck on our own because George accidentally killed 27. And then it ends where I get sniped by a Jonesy character, and it's just George and Jonesy, and then George impulses the Jonesy character off, and George wins, and that's how we get past my side of the challenge. It was that I complete George's one, George completes my one, and then the third one was going to be 27's, and that was going to dive more into like the super world. But by the time it had got to the second episode of the Limbo one, it was getting a bit tricky to be able to actually accomplish what I wanted to. So I kind of had to rewrite stuff and also then incorporate stuff that I wanted to have later on in the episode. So like the darker stuff from the last episode, that was going to be in the 4th of the 5 episodes. And then the 5th episode was going to be me, George, and Will, because Will hadn't been written the same way that he had yet from the final episode. It was going to be that Will was on our side. So it was going to be me, George, and Will, like, basically dismantling the Supo. And then it was going to end where, like, I think 27 ends up being the new leader of the Supo. I think that's what I got it as originally. Where it was like, oh, well, the Supo now have no leader. What are you going to do? And 27 then took the mantle to turn the Supo into something that was good. So that was the initial finish, was that it was going to be the good ending. And then the rewrite made me think, oh, I wonder if it would be interesting to dive heavier into the darker stuff and actually not have Will as a character that was with us, because by that point it made sense for Will to be with us in the real world or through the games that we were playing. But in the rewrite, it didn't really line up with Will being able to join just as Will. So that's why he then became the guard for the Royal Grog, and then he was playing the villain. So yeah, this is a really long-winded way of saying this is how I end up creating stuff. It's basically it I kind of just take it step by step, and I also kind of listen to what people want to see as well. Like for example, if I were to do another My Summer Car or My Winter Car upload, it would probably be somewhat like that final episode, because I kind of feel like I found a really good way to do stuff with that final episode. Granted, it's like a mixture of the comedy, the horror, it's basically a jumble of everything in one thing. But I feel like that worked really well, and I think the reception from it was a lot better than I would have got if I'd have just stuck to a comedy thing, or just stuck to a horror thing, or just stuck to a sad thing. It made kind of everyone appreciate it as a whole. Anyway, I'm sure I've missed some like key parts with that like whole world building answer, but yeah, that's kind of how I make stuff. What's been the biggest source of inspiration for all of this? Is it purely a brainchild of your fantasy, or do they stem from something particular? Great work on it, by the way. Well, as I spoke about kind of like in the lore bit just a second ago, there are like little inspirations from different things that I've watched that kind of are incorporated into the series. Like, for example, the Horror Me, that is something that's based somewhat off the horror mod in My Summer Car, where is it called Supra.dll or something? It's something like that. It's kind of like loosely based off that, which is like a creature that is just constantly following you the whole time, and when it catches you, it then crashes the game. So the Horror Me, it's like when it catches you, you die. And also the like design of the Horror Me is based off Bray Wyatt's The Fiend from WWE, because Bray Wyatt is like, well, especially the Fiend character is probably my favorite character of all time for WWE. And the like screechy noise that it makes when it's like spawning into a place, or when it's just kind of like stood there, like the like a really high pitched sort of sound. That specific part is actually from a promo piece from the Wyatt Six, which is kind of like a branch off from Bray Wyatt's story as the Fiend. There's a woman in the Wyatt Six, and at one point during a promo, she screams, and it's like really. It's got like a really weird filter on it, and it sounded really cool. And I wanted to try and encapsulate a creature that was just connected to Bray in some way, but also made sense for the story. So that's kind of what was then used to be the Horror Me. I think that makes sense. Obviously, I said that the like Supo birth pod things are kind of like to do with the Matrix, and the Supos game is somewhat based off an Agents of Shield story. In terms of the inspiration for the like last few episodes, it was kind of like me just focusing more on what I'm good at compared to just like the standard normal grog sort upload, because I didn't want it to just be all of the same stuff again, because with George's uploads, he leans heavily on gameplay and then adds story afterwards, whereas I like heavily leaning into story and then maybe doing gameplay afterwards. For me, my biggest thing when I'm writing something or when I'm creating something, it is like what do you do with these stories? Like, how do you progress the characters? That's one of the reasons why I did the Supo files, was because like you've got this character in Agent 27, but you don't know anything about him. Like, what is the reason for him to be doing what he's doing? And that's how I kind of like lock in a little bit when I'm writing stuff. Again, I've probably missed a few things with that question, but that's my answer. I have two questions. Will the Supo be back in My Winter Car? Are the alternate grogs going to be relevant again? So, in terms of the Supo being back in My Winter Car, yes. There is the OG4, which again is another thing that I planted in the Super Files. There was a line when 27 and 6 were like sat in a room at the start of that upload, and it was like, we're training you up to be as good as the OG4, and that was just left at that. So you don't really know who the OG4 are. And then now we're kind of diving into it a bit more, or George will be. I kind of started it so that George could carry it on. In terms of the standard Supo, not just the OG4, I would have thought that they'll still be in George's thing. As far as I know, he's got a few ideas with what to do with 27 and the Supo, so it sounds like they're going to still be in it. I'd be very surprised if they're not, because like George's first story kind of like relied on the Supo a lot towards the end of it. In terms of the other versions of the Grogs being relevant again, I don't know. I think that is something that kind of was a bit of fan service in a way. There was a comment that I saw, I can't remember what upload it was in, but it was as I was writing stuff to do with My Summer Car, like the episodes that I was making. And it was like, bruh, he's got so many different variants of Grogs at this point. That would be so cool to just see them all in one room. And then that made me think, oh, I wonder if I can like if I can write it into the story for it to make sense in the moment. If it doesn't make sense, then I won't do it. But if I can, then that would be really cool to just have like all of the different Grog versions in one scene or in one place. And that's kind of where that idea came from. In my head, I kind of envision a moment where like they can be used again, but in the story, you can also kind of argue that the whole thing never really existed because it's never really explained, and I've kind of left it somewhat open because the whole story of the last episode is that like both me and 27 are just being manipulated by Will's demon character the whole time, and the Limbo monster is helping him do that. So at the end of the part with the Royal Grog, you kind of just see the world fade away into the like, I don't want to call it hell, but it's the fire area. So there's a potential argument to be made there that that whole scene and the whole of just everything just is made up, and you can't. It's not a real thing. It's just something that the demon character was making to make it seem real. So yeah, at the moment, no plan to do anything more with either the Royal Grog or just the rest of those characters. What does the date mean at the end of the upload? So if people have been around for, when would it have been? Well, I did an upload last year to do with it. It's basically there are parts in this upload that are somewhat nods to stuff in real life. One of which being my stepmom. If you don't know the backstory of her, basically she was someone that passed away a few years ago. So that's kind of something that I kind of like implemented it into the story for the more serious moments, because I wanted to have a connection between, well, not just between the audience and me, but also I wanted to create a bond between 27 and my character. And the best way to do that is through loss, because 27's whole arc is he's lost someone, and it's kind of like making him do bad stuff, but he's naturally a good person. And I feel like it was interesting using real life stuff to make my character go from a good person to then being tricked into a bad person, which kind of mirrors, or like is the opposite of how 27 is. You'll notice a lot of times in the last upload, and also a couple of times potentially with the uploads before, that 27 and my character do mirror each other a lot, and there's a lot of dialogue that is the same for one person that it is for the other. Like, for example, when we both just appear in the real life scene that's towards the middle of that upload, you'll know the bit that I mean, where I'm just sat down and 27's watching the stuff and all of that. There's a moment in that where when 27 first appears, it's like, what was it? He says something like, what is this? And then says Cam. And then when my character goes there, he's like, what is this? 27? And there's a lot of little bits during that upload that is like the two characters mirroring each other. So that's, I used real life stuff, going back to it being the date at the end of the upload. I basically used real life stuff to make the story better. One thing I will say is that it's really cool just to see people that already knew, like already got the reference. Because one of the things that like I want to do as much as I can is just try and make sure that like people know my past and people know stuff that like I've been through, or people that I've known, or people that aren't around anymore. So to pay like little homages and stuff, and for people to understand it and be like, oh, that's to Cam's stepmom who isn't here anymore, and it's like a little moment, and it's just cool as someone who's kind of like lived obviously with my stepmom for years, for people who don't know me at all to know who she is. George reveal? Up until I'd seen this video, all I'd seen was George's hands and his IRL driving videos. Finally, we can see a bit more of him. Maybe this is getting closer to a face reveal? What I'll say is I don't know if it's getting closer to a face reveal. I know that it will happen eventually, but I don't know when that'll be. I think that in terms of George, like how he is, because he's a very quiet, like subdued person. He's very like keeps to himself kind of person. So I don't know if it'll be something that he wants to do, because it could be something that he later regrets. And also the way that things are at the moment with stuff in real life is could affect stuff that he's got going on in the background as well. So I don't know if it's the right time to be doing that, but at the end of the day, it's up to him. When is the story actually going to end? So I don't know. I have a feeling that we're going to end up in this very don't know gray area moment, because I've said that I've stepped away from creating that stuff and from doing that story and future stories. So with it being all on George now, it'll either be that the story is still pretty good, or the story kind of takes a back foot a little bit based on the fact that George kind of prioritizes gameplay and then story. So I don't know when it's going to end, and I hope that it doesn't end with it just being mid-story and then George decides, oh, okay, I've come kind of bored with it now. I just kind of put it to the side. I think that if that were to happen, then that would maybe be a time where I do one more upload just to finish everything off, because I want there to be a conclusion, and there's a lot that you can still do with the story, whether that be with my character, whether that be with George's character, with John Law as just a silly comedic character, with 27, with the Supo as an organization, and maybe even doing like a Superfiles 2 with the OG4, like explaining their proper backstory, and that could work maybe. But there's a lot that you could do with it, so I hope that it ends properly, but it's not up to me anymore. Did you record the audio when you were outside? Looks like it was recorded inside in post, but then again, you could have just been using amazing quality microphones. So could you please tell me how you did that? So, as you said for the middle to the end part, it could be that it was done with amazing microphones, but no, it was something that I recorded just normally, no magical audio for it to sound better while I was actually recording it. It was something that I did the voice lines and the scenes for. I said the things in like a way that would work for the scene while I was recording it. Then further down the line, when it came to making it, I then used this mic, which I'm using at the moment, sat here and did the like voiceover of it, and I used how I sounded during the recording to try and replicate it enough so that it seemed seamless. I think there's one scene where it didn't quite sound correct, but 95% of it, it's perfect from what I can tell anyway. So yeah, it was recorded through this mic as I was sat here. Are you okay, man? Yes, I'm okay. I know that there's a lot of more serious tones in the last episode, but it was more for it to be in a sense of allowing people to talk about that kind of thing if they're going through anything like it. I'm hoping that if anyone who's watching this or who watched the last episode is going through stuff like what was depicted or suggested in that upload, that they do go and get help, or if they know someone that is, then making sure to be there for them. Because at the end of the day, the only person who can really properly control it is yourself. What you can do is you can have friends around you that can help with it and that can kind of guide you into places, but at the end of the day, to be able to help yourself out, you've got to be able to want to help yourself out. So yeah, I'm hoping that those scenes, and the reason that I saw for quite a few people that it was hitting quite hard, I'm hoping that that can create a conversation and not normalize, I guess kind of normalize that it does happen, but not normalize wanting to do it. When my winter car, I'm pretty sure it'll be next week. I know that George usually does Monday uploads, so it could be Monday, it might not be Monday. It depends how long it takes him to do stuff. Will you, Grog TV, and maybe Will play my winter car? Please answer my question. So, at the moment, I've got my winter car because I used it for the last little bit of the My Summer Car upload, but I don't plan on playing it because naturally, I am not really bothered by those types of games. I have a pretty big soft spot for My Summer Car because I've built this whole world around it. But playing the game, I'm not too bothered by. Will's done an upload. If you go to Will's channel, then he did do an upload on My Winter Car. It's not connected with the giant lore of everything. It's just its own separate thing. And he said that he wants to go back to it. I don't know if that's going to be another upload for the future. So that could be a separate series that you end up getting into. I don't know. And then George is going to be doing My Winter Car. I don't know how many episodes it'll be, but hopefully it's a good story. Man, a couple of British blokes managed to make such an amazing, dark yet funny short film. Hats off, chaps. We do it. Yeah, as I was saying earlier, the amount of people that said that they did really enjoy this upload is really good, because I know that I'd focused a lot on the uploads before it, like the My Summer Car uploads before it, but this last one particularly, it's I think that it might be something that is like a hidden gem, because I don't know if it's going to get a ton of views. At the moment, it's about 15,000 views. I think that it's going to be one of those that, like, if you know about it, you know about it. If you don't know about it, then some might consider that you're missing out. I don't know. But yeah, I love the fact that I was able to make a story that was emotional, that was dark, that had a lot of like horror bits in it, that was also really funny as well. I feel like it's really difficult in general, not just for me, but for anyone, to be able to successfully make a story, and not just any story, but within a like 35-minute span, which was that final upload, where there is funny parts, there's serious parts, there's sad parts, like, and there was a conclusion to it as well that also left it open for more stuff. I feel like that is such a hard task to do, and it was something that I had written down in a Google Doc for, it must have been a year and a bit, that final episode, or at least the start of it anyway. And for it to finally be released on that day, and even the night before, it felt like, I was saying to a few people in the Discord server, that it kind of felt like Christmas, or like Christmas Eve. You know, like when you're a kid and you're like so excited to see what you get the next day, and then you can't sleep. Well, that was kind of like how it was for me. It's not that I was excited, I was more just nervous because I didn't know how people were going to receive certain scenes and receive the storyline and just everything about it. So I was really, really nervous the day before, and even the days leading up to it, I think, but especially the day before. And I didn't really get much sleep. And then seeing how it was received when it went up, it was crazy. At one point, I almost teared up because I was scrolling through the comments and I was thinking, bruh, there's this project that like I've been so invested in mentally. Not I might not have done many uploads of it, but it's always been in my head, trying to make this a proper thing. And I'm watching it be received amazingly, and it was just wow. What a moment. No way is that George selling Peugeots. Yes, I don't know if anyone noticed it other than this guy, but yes, there is a scene in the bit where there's a ton of Georges that in the background there is a Grog character with a Peugeot shirt that's like, oh, never thought I'd see someone turn Mice and Makar into a psychological thriller. Absolute cinema. Oh yeah, man. Oh yes. YouTuber movies are exploding in 2026. This is legit better than most new releases. So I don't know in terms of YouTuber movies who else has done one. I know that Markiplier did obviously Iron Lung, that was massive. And what I'm doing is on no way the same scale as how he managed to do that. But in terms of other YouTuber movies, I don't actually know anyone else that's doing like proper story based things like I did. But I know that it's something that I've always enjoyed doing. Like at school, I was terrible at English, but I really enjoyed writing stories. And one thing that I noticed, I don't know if I really noticed it in the moment, but especially looking back at it, I loved writing stories where either the main character loses or main character dies or something bad happens in it. I like making stuff that is kind of like the Avengers Infinity War of any story where they don't win at the end. Grog hair reveal? Yeah, I suppose so. That was something that I spoke to George about quite a bit because I know that he wants to try and keep stuff secretive. And I said to him, look, there's this story that I'm writing, and it's kind of like the rest of the Mice and Makar stuff where it's kind of like blending real stuff and fake stuff and different worlds. And I really want to do a scene that's got you in it in real life. But I'm not gonna do the face reveal. You can still hide your face, but I really want to just have some kind of scene built around you actually being like yourself. So we went to a place. I'm not gonna leak where it was, but we went to somewhere and I basically directed him to do different scenes, and it was somewhat what you saw in the behind the scenes upload if you've seen that one. But yeah, I'm glad that George was wanting to do that as well, because if he'd have said no to it, then I feel like it wouldn't have impacted that part of the story as much, because I think a lot of people really want to see what George looks like, but I think that it's cool being able to do that, but not fully do that, because it's kind of like sprinkling seeds of like the guy said earlier. Oh, is there going to be a face reveal? I don't know, but it's it's a cool scene to have, and for people who are fans of Grog to be able to see something new from him that they might not see in anything else. Peak has just arrived. Also, Will finally has a Grogmoji. I don't think I've ever heard it be called a Grogmoji before, but that actually sounds pretty cool. And yes, that was one thing that, for the end of this story, no matter what part of it was written, I wanted to have Will in it. Because if you've seen the first upload, where George goes into my house after he's escaped Finland, there is a very brief scene where I'm talking to Will, like sat here, and we're playing Rocket League, I think it is. And he's like, "What the hell?" And I wanted to start it with Will and end it with Will. So yeah, that it was always part of the plan for Will to get his own character. And also another thing as well, this Mice and Makar series is what made my Grog character, or my Grogmoji, uh, an actual thing anyway. It wouldn't have been a thing without me saying, "Oh, I've got this idea to do this. Let's do this." Um, so I'd said to George, I want to make sure that Will also has a character as well, because not only have I seen people constantly saying, "Oh, well, why hasn't Will got one?" There wasn't there wasn't really anything that George was saying that was like him wanting there to be a Will character. So I wanted to try and make sure that I could get that in some way. So we'd gone through a few different designs. I think at one point Will had the normal like hairstyle that all of the characters have, and then we changed it because it just didn't quite fit with what I was thinking and what Will was thinking as well. But yeah, it was always in the plan It was always in the plan. Genuinely absolute cinema. I was glued to my screen. I cannot wait for the continuation of this. Well, yeah, I'm hoping that whatever George does, it actually is really good. I think that it's going to go back to the old style of Mice and Makar stuff. I'm not expecting it to be a thing that's too serious. But there's so many characters that George has at his disposal now that he could use at any point for whatever he needs to do. And I'm hoping that, as I said earlier, I'm hoping that it doesn't turn into this thing where the storyline is just kind of just doing this slowly every single episode until until it's just gameplay. Because granted, everyone's going to love it. It's George at the end of the day. So the way that he does uploads, it works. But as the person who built up the storyline to a point that I think this might be the highest that it gets to in terms of people receiving it really well, not just based off the fact that it's connected to George. I think that there is a very good chance that it could then dip, but I just hope that it doesn't. So yeah, I have faith in George. I think that George is going to do an amazing job, but I also know the type of upload George tends to do, so I don't know what to expect, but I do hope that it's really good. Never should have had this on 3 times speed. Why have you got it on 3 times? Can you even put stuff on 3 times speed? I thought the max was 2. I just wonder, how is this not listed in the cinema yet? Because holy shit. A journey so worth it from 2024. Truly hats off to you guys. I'm at a loss for words right now. Well, I think that I really wanted to make sure that there was a conclusion that worked really well. That wasn't just, oh, this is my final episode and it's just like a normal thing. I want it to be that people look back at it and say, oh, well, the George stuff before was good and the Cameron stuff in the middle was pretty good. The George stuff afterwards, that was also real good. But did anyone see that last upload that Cameron did? And I really wanted to make something that wasn't just the norm, because no one has ever made an upload like this for Mice and Makar. I don't know if the creator of Mice and Makar has ever seen any of George's stuff, and I doubt he's ever seen any of my stuff. Or they, I don't know how many people make Mice and Makar. I was thinking it was just one guy, but now I think it's not just one guy. So yeah, I wanted it to be something that people can actually really just like sink their teeth into, that's something that they've not seen before. So I'm glad that it worked. Love how this series lent into metaphysical themes. Keen to see what happens next. Yeah, as I said, I don't know where it goes next. I say that. I know one storyline because it's what I suggested to George and he said it was really good. I know where he's thinking of going. I don't know if it's where he's going to go with it. But yeah, there was, seeing as I did introduce the OG4, there was a specific storyline that I had in mind for them. I think that I think that George is going in a different way as to how those characters are, but I think that he's still going with the storyline that I'd suggested, which it's really good, and I'm hoping that if he does go with it, that it's delivered well, because it'll be one of those moments that's like, ooh, wait, this kind of cooks. This also kind of makes sense as well. What the hell? It's a really good story, so I'm hoping that it does well. In terms of the type of themes that are in the last episode, I don't know if they'll ever be recreated. I'm not gonna lie, and that's not me like patting myself on the back or anything. Like, what I was able to create there, and the seriousness but also unseriousness of certain parts, I don't know if anything like this is ever going to be made again in this type of series. It might be made by someone on a completely different story in a completely different game, or maybe even real life stuff. It's doable to do it again, but for this specific series, I don't see there ever being anything as good as this and as like impactful as this, even if the story's really good. I can't believe you had the cojones to make George the villain in a plot twist. Well done, Cam. Yeah, that was something that, again, going back to what I was saying earlier about like the bit between 27 and George in the Super Files, where it's like, ooh, hang on, wait, you can kind of go on either 27's side or George's side, so you could see them both as the villain, but both of them as the good guy. And with a character like the demon character that basically just does what he wants to get what he wants and doesn't care about the ramifications of anything. It and also in a world like the limbo area, you kind of you find yourself in a place where you have no limits, so you can do scenes that don't have to be real, but they can still have impact. So like that scene where me and well where I'm being taken to be shown George in the real world, um, but it's just like a fabrication that was made by the demon and the limbo monster to make me just give up completely. It's interesting leaning into that because there is in the storyline you can argue that what the demon's showing him is kind of true because like it's forcing my character into a like a moment to reflect on everything that's happened, and the way that my character reflected on it, it does make sense because he he'd gone to try and find George, then got stuck in the game again. But the point of my character wanting to go and find George while George is just off doing his own thing, um, there's an argument that you can be like making there that George just literally doesn't care, and that he does he does whatever he wants and doesn't care about the people around him. So it leans into the fact that my character can view it in that way. Now, obviously, if you've seen the whole thing, then George is not the bad guy. Granted, he caused the car crash with 27 and 6, but overall, George is not the bad guy of the story. The bad guy of the story is the demon. But it's just fun treading that line of like, oh well, he did actually kind of do that, so I can see that this is also going to lead to this, and that then makes him this. And oh well, if you like jumble it into one big thing and connect everything, yeah, he's just doing this because he doesn't care. He's just the bad guy, and it's an interesting. It's not just an interesting thing to write. It's an interesting thing to create, to be able to be a part of, and for people to see it the way that I was interpreting it to be seen. So yeah, that's like something that I really enjoy is flipping characters. Did we just witness Cam turning heel against his own will? In a way, yes. Like as I said earlier, the story didn't initially end in the way that it did end. It was originally going to have a bit of a happier ending, and then I changed it to a darker ending. Um, but yeah, this was something that I really wanted to try and do in the initial I can't speak in the initial draft of the story. It was that um, I would start to turn bad, but then go good again. But I I really like the idea of just like putting myself in this situation where my character is so broken that he just doesn't care, and then he can be manipulated by the person behind the scenes. So yeah, if my character does appear again, then I really hope that it's as a bad guy, because that would be so fun to play that character. At the moment, the one scene that like I keep, because like as someone who just is constantly wanting to create stuff, obviously my brain is now thinking of, oh, where can I go next? Where can I go next? Even though I'm not going to do another one. But if I ever do, my brain's still just like, oh, I can do this, do this, do this. Um, that I've got this scene in my head. I don't know if it'll ever be depicted either in a George vid or in one of my own. I've got this scene in my head of like this this big thing happens with I don't know whoever it is, maybe George and a few other people, and they think it's all good. And then like you turn around, and then I'm there, and it's like, ooh, oh, okay, he's back, and like I look like really like drained almost. And then I don't know, I say a few things, and then I just like scream, and I'm like really angry, and I kind of like go like that, and like the electricity that's at the end of the final episode, that like the demons like kind of like pulsating into me. Like I can then like use it in a sort of like Palpatine sort way. And I then like become someone who's somewhat supernatural, because that sounds like it would be such a cool angle to go with it. I don't know if it'll ever be a thing. This could just be something that forever is in my mind. But yeah, if I ever do come back as a villain, I just hope that it is good, because I feel like if it doesn't land, then it kind of takes away from the turning bad in the first place. Good shot composition, more coverage than some actual films I've seen recently, and a comprehensible through line of a plot. That was something that I really wanted to do if I could. And it's tricky. It's a tricky thing to do when you're dealing with a complicated storyline, as that episode is. But I wanted to make sure that it had callbacks to stuff, that it was a good storyline, that it was something different to anything that anyone had ever seen before or thought that was possible with Meister Makar. That's like the big thing, trying to make something that is so different and so refreshing, rather than just doing the same thing over and over again. And because I'd spent so long with this just giant list, it must have been like 30 pages of like Google documents at one point. And it was stuff that I would like go through and read tons, and I would like picture the scenes, um like the one with all the grogs, for example. That was a scene that I pictured a certain way, and then I was looking for the music to have with it, and I found it. And as soon as I was listening to the music, because that's like one of the big things for me, if the music doesn't go well with the scene, it doesn't make the scene. Because you can have the most serious moment happening, but if the music doesn't hit with it, then it just feels off, or it feels cringe, or it doesn't hit the way that you want it to. So I wanted to have some kind of music with that grog scene that was like goofy but also kind of hits. And as soon as I heard that music, I was like, oh yes, this is the one. And as I was playing it, I could literally picture the entire scene that you then see in the episode. Like, I pictured it beforehand, but going along with the music, I was watching it in my head while the music was happening. And that's something that I don't know if that's something that's normal. I'm not gonna lie. But that it's just how my brain works, and I really wanted that scene to be something that's like a whoa, look at them all, and then you just see him walking around, and then it leads to the royal grog and all of that, and it I think that it hit really well. But yeah, it's as silly as it sounds. I do look at this series, and maybe even future series and past things that I've done. I look at them through a lens of like, I really like, I want it to be what I am envisioning. I want it to work, because sometimes you write scenes, you do different things, and you think, that's not quite how I was picturing it. And then sometimes you do scenes, and it's like, oh, okay, it's not how I was picturing it, but that might make it better. And it's just this thing that you get through like writing and creating over a long period of time, that it's just it kind of feels natural at this point. So yeah, maybe that's why I was able to make a thing that was comprehensible. This is a foothold in a strong film career. I can feel it. Something's wrong. I can feel it. If you know, you know. I don't really know. Well, in terms of a film career, that's not what I have in mind. But if further way down the line, something comes up, and I'm at a point where it makes sense and I feel like I can accomplish something because that's a big thing to do, an actual like film related thing. So yeah, if it comes up and if it works out well, then that would be something that is really cool to do. I think that would be the toughest thing that I will ever do if I ever do that. But um, I I don't want to be someone that goes into that line of stuff. At least not at the moment, anyway. I feel like my calling, in a way, is through YouTube. If I can make really compelling stories in this way through YouTube, then that's that. I don't know if I would take the jump to proper filming and proper like film development in a sense, kind of like what Markiplier did. I can't see myself doing that. I think that that would be very stressful, and I think that that's something that current me would not be able to do. Maybe future me will. I'm not saying it's out of the picture, but um, that's not how I picture things going at the moment. But that would be really cool. And for the fact that you've like thought that as well, that means a lot to me as someone who, like, granted I do a lot of like random gaming stuff and a lot of like reaction and all sorts of stuff. But to actually dive into a story and for someone to then say this is like this could be something. This it's like the best thing that you can hear. This is beautifully sad, and I love the love letter to your stepmom. Yeah, like as I said earlier, I feel like I'm getting to the point in this upload where like I am repeating myself a lot, but I wanted to go through as many questions as I could. Yeah, I think that it's really important to me to make sure that I not only pave the way, if I can, for future creators and for people that I have around me, like Will, like Eggrold or Darby, or just anyone that's in our space that wants to grow. I want to make sure that they can grow, but I also want to make sure that I remember where I came from and the people that made me who I become, who I became even. Um, and yeah, in my life, obviously it's different for everyone, but in my life, one of the main people that I feel had a massive impact on me is my stepmom, and I think that she even had a bigger impact after she left because then like it's not. I feel like in the moment, a lot of people just kind of take stuff for granted, and I think I try not to, but I do it, and I know that I do it. Um, but for anyone who's lost anyone, it's you want to, if it's someone that you really cared about, you want to do your best for them, and you want to make sure that people know the name, who by the way is Sharon. I want people to know that she was someone that was really highly regarded in my life. So yeah, I think that this whole journey through my summer car, it's it's not only helped improve my natural skills, like talking in an acting sense or in a creative sense or just anything like that, but it's also helped maybe bring awareness to certain things, and also maybe it's made people like appreciate people that are around them still. And I think I think that in a way my job is not for me to do well. My job is to make sure that the people around me or who were around me are lifted up in some way or are remembered in some way. So that's my job. I've been the same for a few years now, maybe even my whole life in a way. But yeah, I just people around me will know. I always try and do what I can for them, even if they feel like they don't need it or that they don't deserve it. I I want to push as many people up as I can, and I want to take as many people with me to wherever I'm going as I can, whether that's people that are here or people that are not here. You should be extremely proud of what you created here, man. I can only imagine how much time, effort, and emotions that took to create. This was a much deeper ending than I ever imagined, but my god, was it worth it. You are awesome, my boy, and you made something epic. I hope you're proud of this, because you should be. I hope you're doing okay, because there was some dark shit in there. Thank you for doing this. I think that this is a great example of just like the comments that I was on about towards the start and throughout this upload. Like, the amount of support that I've had for this upload specifically has been crazy, and I'm so happy that I was able to make something that was as impactful and that resonated with as many people as it did. I think in a way this is my, what's the word I'm looking for? This is my Frankenstein's monster. Is that the right way of this is my child. This is my boy. If for example, say tomorrow, as morbid as it sounds, say tomorrow I'd just drop dead for some reason, I would like to think that one of the main things creatively that I am remembered for is making this upload, because this thing, it turned out better than I had a feeling it was going to be good, but like it turned out way better than I could have even imagined. And yeah, I'm seeing comments like this, saying earlier as well, like there are certain comments that like almost made me tear up. This is a great example of it, because just like, thank you for, like, I know I'm the one that's created it, but just thank you for watching it, and thank you for feeling open enough to congratulate me for it and say that like I should be proud of it, because I'm gonna be honest, it's not something I hear too often. So to be able to hear that, like, yes, you should be proud of this. This has been amazing. This is something that you have made that is better than anything, and then I just, I can't thank people enough for it. Grog appeared on my For You page 2 years ago when the series started. I've been hooked ever since. Grog is how I discovered you, and now YouTube has led me to this masterpiece. Yeah, I think, well, to be honest, yes. There's a lot of people that have helped me along the way, and there's a lot of things that I've done to help myself along the way. But I wouldn't be where I am without George. I know that George likes keeping to himself, and George, he tends to just do a lot of solo stuff, but like what he's done for my career in YouTube is crazy, and I'm very thankful that not only has he in the past helped me with stuff, but he continues to. And I envision a future where hopefully one day I am bigger on YouTube, and that I am able to do what he's done for me to other creators. I'm kind of doing it a little bit now, but just not to the degree that I want to be, because I want to make people what I feel that and what they feel that they can be. And that all starts with George. I watched this at like 1 a.m. last night because I was bored, and this was such an intense video to watch. You did an amazing job. I sat there in my dark ass room, like trying not to wake up my dad, but fist pumping and cheering during this. I was so sleep deprived. That's probably why you were fist pumping and stuff, because that's mad. The bit at 14 minutes and 18 seconds was insane. You did it so well. You did an amazing job at portraying the feelings that were experienced. I've been in a similar place, and it's hard to go back and face it. Stay strong. This is like what I was saying earlier. There are certain moments in the upload that I wanted to have a certain impact and allow people to talk about certain things that they've either been through or that they still go through. And like this guy here, I say this guy, this girl, I don't know. Um, like they were saying, them saying that I did an amazing job at about mm, doing that scene. Essentially, if you know the scene, you know the scene. Them saying that they've been in a similar place themselves, and it's hard to face. That's why I felt like it was such an important thing to incorporate into what is a darker upload, and in a moment where you're in a situation where literally anything's possible and there's someone that's trying to use like the darkest parts of your life against you. So it's important for stuff like that to be included, because then it resonates with people that are watching it, and hopefully it then creates conversation around certain things. So yeah, you were saying stay strong to me. I hope that you're doing well as well if you're watching this. Even just to say that you've been in a similar place, that can still take a lot of guts. So I'm thankful that you let me know about that, and I'm hoping that you are doing okay. And if there's anyone else that you or anyone else that's watching this that are struggling with stuff, just talk about it. I know it's difficult, and it's something that I struggle with a lot in terms of talking about feelings and stuff, because I feel like a lot of guys just don't, or even women, to be honest. But I feel like it is more like a guy centric thing. Just if you're going through stuff, even if it's just one person that you talk to, just find someone that's willing to listen. And even if there's someone that you think isn't willing to listen, just give them that chance and they might surprise you. This is so peak, I swear I'm tearing up. I mean, granted, this could just be them joking, but on a somewhat serious note, this is the kind of thing that I aim for. When I was doing the Super Files, and there was the scene with Six dying and 27's like all sad. There were a couple of comments on that that was like, I didn't expect to actually get emotional during this. I was like tearing up, or I was like teary eyed and stuff. Um, and that to me means way more than them saying that they laughed. I think that laughing is such a easy thing to do in entertainment, but the things that impact people the most and the things that people remember are when you get hit emotionally. So yes, this comment might have been a bit of a joke, but there are genuinely people out there that might have been tearing up, or this could be genuine as well. So yeah, that's what I strive for in a creative sense, that where I'm like making a story. If I can make people emotional, then yeah, that's the peak. This upload was letting go in terms of loss, I think. To be honest, in a way, kind of, because um a lot of a lot of things that I go through, I don't really always know how to say it. So I a lot of the time I kind of like bottle it up and turn it into creativity. Now the bottling it up part I wouldn't recommend. But to be able to turn stuff that you've gone through into creativity to then help other people or to impact people in some way, it's that's kind of what I was doing with this upload. Not fully, but yeah, there's definitely sprinkles of that, yeah. I think the best story that you can tell is a story that you can tap into your own emotion while creating. Holy guacamole, John Law, my favorite lawman, is alive. Yeah, he's still around. John Law is a character that I've been wanting to go back to, well, for years at this point, because 2024 was when I first introduced him. I was just waiting for the right time to introduce him into the series properly, because there were like little hints of him, but not like properly. And granted, I've now given it to George, so George might turn around and say, I don't really want John Law, to be honest. And then we never get John Law again. But yeah, I think that there's so many things that you can do with John Law from just like a comedic thing. I think that John Law is kind of this universe's version of R-Truth from WWE. Just like the guy that says stupid stuff. Yeah, I don't know when John Law's gonna return, But hopefully he does again at some point. Thanks to you, Cam, for everything you've done for us. We're always appreciative of your work. Well, thank you for watching it. I yeah, I don't really know what to say about that, but yeah, I think that I'm very happy with how everything went with this upload. And yes, this might be the last My Summer Car upload, but I'm hoping that people will come back to it and watch it a few times. And I've already seen comments of people saying, "Oh, I'm back again, watching the upload." um, but yeah, this started off as something that I wanted to do to continue the story for George, but what it turned into is so much more, and I've got such a such a soft spot for the game, as I was saying earlier. Um, but it also allowed me to see some of the stuff with the in-game lore that I never would have been bothered by, and it allowed me to entertain an audience that I naturally wouldn't be a part of because I'm not really a car person. I know that I do a lot of car related uploads every now and again with George and Will, but yeah, anyone who knows me knows that I don't really care about like stuff to do with cars, and it's always the way that it's been. I wish that it was different because it would be very helpful to know a lot about cars, but I I just never have been that fussed by it. So to be able to create a story in a world that is about essentially is about building a car, um, and to turn it into something so much more than it already was, then it's yeah. I'm very happy with everything. Pure cinema. Also, shout out to the Fiend shirt, a man of class I see. See, I did reply to this comment already. I wanted to try not to reply to as many because I wanted to save it for this. But yeah, so that is very, very intentional, me wearing the Fiend shirt. If you don't know, I don't think I've got it anywhere. It's probably upstairs at the moment. But yeah, so the shirt is basically it's a Bray Wyatt, the Fiend shirt, which I was saying earlier is the somewhat inspiration for the horror me. But that's also one of the reasons why I was wearing it in that scene because it's like a nod to that character being created in this world because of Bray Wyatt's the Fiend, but also that scene specifically where I'm wearing that. It's a scene that's pretty heavy on the demon tricking me into thinking a certain thing and manipulating me. So if you don't know what the Fiend character is, it's basically there's this guy called Bray Wyatt, and he's got this darker alter ego that's the Fiend. So that's another similarity between me and the horror me. But yeah, so that scene, it is the demon not being there but being there, telling my character to let him in and to give up. That's why I wore that shirt during that scene, because it's a moment where he's trying to break my character and he's trying to manipulate him into just like maybe you should just give up and stuff like that. So it's the demon character speaking through my IRL character saying to let him in. Are you going to make a playlist of all the My Summer Car things? So there's a couple of playlists on my channel. There's one that is My Summer Car in order, and that's all of them in order. And there's one that's just a normal My Summer Car playlist that's got all of my stuff. It's somewhat in order, but it's got like all of the teasers and stuff towards the bottom, so you don't really need to see them because the episodes are out. So it's got like the episodes, then it's got one of me talking about when I jumped off my chair, and it's got the behind the scenes thing, and yeah. So there's a couple of playlists. Just head to my channel, like playlist section, and you'll see it. Why no My Summer Car? The game has been out for months. Wait, is that Larry? Bro, the other guy off Grog TV series has a better series of Mice and Makar than Grog. I don't know. I think that it very much depends what kind of person you are. If you're someone that likes the gameplay side of things, you're going to like George's one more. If you're someone that likes a good story, you're going to like mine more. If you think that my series was better than George's series, then that doesn't bode well now that it's back in George's control. But yeah, if you think that mine's better than George's, then thank you. I am not sure, but I think that I did the best that I could with it, and I'm hoping that it will be something that's remembered pretty fondly. Because, like, say 2 years down the line, or maybe a year down the line, George has finished my winter car, and it's done. At that point, once the series is over, like completely, that's when I might start to see where people think the better story was. And yeah, it sounds nice that like I would have made a better series than George, but I genuinely don't know. I think it's personal preference. Only real ones type 27 in the comments. So this probably won't work because I think that this is probably like 30 or 40 minutes through the upload at this point. This feels like it's been going on for a long time. So if you're still watching this, put 27 in the comments. I can guarantee there will be no 27s in sight. Completely none. I have one more question. Who came up with the Swift? If you mean the character from the Grog universe that's wearing the Swift shirt, that was George. I think that it came from an old upload. Was that the one where he was in the conference room and there was a load of people with like different car shirts? It might have been from that one, or it might have been from a different one. But yeah, it was one that George had, and I asked him about sending through a load of just random grogs that he had, and that was one of them. Will you ever finish the rally in My Summer Car? I don't plan to do anything in My Summer Car anymore, but you never know. All in all, how long did it take to do everything, starting from when George started to the ending? I don't know when George started. Oh, George started in 2023, didn't he? So, all in all, how long did it take? It would have been from like mid 2023 till the start of 2026, so almost 3 years. In terms of the ones where I was writing stuff and I was in control of everything, that would have been from May 2024 onwards. So anything that you've seen from that point onwards, then that's me. Will 27 get his own actual voice? As far as I know, no. There is. I'm not going to spoil anything, but there's a potential reason why they're all speaking like that, and I know that George is thinking of getting people to voice the OG4, like actual voices, which then kind of complicates it a little bit because I gave Agent 2, was it Agent 2, I think, or Agent 2, the standard voice. So I don't know if he's going to sound different in George's one. I did bring that to George's attention that like if you want to get like real voices for those characters, then keep in mind that I didn't give a real voice to Agent 2. How big will John Law be in the next parts when they come out? I don't know. That is completely out of my control. I would like John Law to have a bit of something. Part of me has a feeling that it's going to be that he just kind of leaves Agent 27, because at the end of the final episode, it was that he was stuck in a room with Agent 27, and then he was like, "Oh, we're going to get out of here." I have a feeling he's going to just not appear, and it's going to be there's going to be a line of dialogue that's like, "Oh yeah, John Law left me," and yeah, but I hope that's not the case. But I don't know what the future holds for John Law. Will there ever be a classic My Summer Car and My Winter Car episode without Supo shenanigans? I don't know. Again, I think that some of these next ones, they're gonna be like, I don't know. I don't know how many questions I've got left. There's another I don't know. My guess is no. I think that there will always be some kind of an underlying storyline. I don't know how big the storyline will be, but I think there's always going to be something. So yeah, Supo's around to stay, and if they're not, then the characters connected with them will be. Why is Will in the Land of the Grogs as a guard? So there, I I wanted Will to be in a scene somewhere that was that allowed him to have his own character. Not the demon character that's red, but like one that is actually him. And there, it was tricky trying to find a point in the story where I was able to do that and that it made sense for the story as well. It wasn't just that he just was there for no reason. So that's why he was a guard with the Grogs, because as I was saying earlier, there's an argument to be made that that whole Grog universe doesn't even exist. It was a fabrication that was made by the demon to push my character and 27's character into a darker area. So I I would say that the reason that he was there was because he was the demon pretending to be Will, and he was the guy that was creating the whole area. So he was there to be able to have a bit of dialogue with the main characters that then links to him being connected with George later on. What does the Ghost Boy in Limbo gain out of making you and Grog hate each other and want revenge? Well, in terms of the Limbo monster, it's kind of like he plays a henchman role. He's the side character to the demon, and the demon is the main villain. So the Limbo monster's job is kind of guiding people and like making them trust him, and then kind of pushing them into a darker area to then get got by the demon. In terms of what he gets out of me and George hating each other, he doesn't really get anything. But the demon then gets control of me, and that's what he was wanting. He was wanting to get control of something, and by the end of the episode, he'd already got control of me. So that's why he then let 27 go during George's deal, because he didn't need 27 anymore. He just wanted someone to be able to drain their life force of, kind of. Like, basically put in a situation where the demon can then have another henchman sort figure. What was your favorite part of the series? I'm going to be honest, it's in an episode that I think has got the lowest views out of all of them, apart from the John Law skit. But there's a moment in the Horror Me episode where we're in the Supos game that's all red, and it's when the Horror Me is like locked in and hunting us. I think that whole sequence of like going to Timo's and hiding in there and then going out and 27 shooting the Horror Me, and because it shot the Horror Me, it then affected my character because like they're connected, and then the Horror Me stabs 27, chucks him towards the like bus station bit, the bus stop, and then both 27 and my character die. And then it ends with hearing George's voice, and then the end of the episode. I think that sequence is such a fun sequence to have. I think that's probably my favorite. What's Where's Wally? Is that like Where's Waldo? Yes, so in the UK, Where's Wally is Where's Waldo. Will we see more of the Supo files? I don't know, because again, it's back to George now. He's not had proper control of the series because he hasn't wanted to since he ended those first few episodes, and obviously since then, that's when I did the Super Files, was after that point. I do think it would be really cool to do a Super Files 2 that is about the OG4. I think that there's a lot that you can do with those characters because there's not really anything that's known about them. I think they're probably the character that has the least amount of lore at the moment. So if I was George, I would lean into the fact that you don't know anything about these characters other than the fact that they're highly regarded. So yeah, that's if there were to be a Super Fast 2, it would probably be that. Late question, sorry, but what's your favorite car? So, as I said earlier, I'm not really much of a car person, despite the fact that I do a lot of car uploads. So, I don't really have a favorite car, as mad as that sounds. I know that when I was younger, there was a Ford Fiesta ST that I thought that looked really, really cool. I wouldn't be able to tell you what year or anything. If I had to guess, maybe around 2010, 2012. I don't know. Um, so yeah, that's the first car that comes to mind because it used to be one of the ones that I thought looked really cool. Um, but yeah, I don't really have a favorite car. Will you do more career mode in Beam and G? How do we tell him? Will you be in my winter car? It's completely up to George. So far, I don't mind leaking it because it's gonna be out in like 2 days anyway. I've done voice lines for the Superior. That's all I've done. So yeah, John Law, don't know. My character, don't know. Who else is there? The Horror Me, if I were to ever need to voice anything with that, don't know. The Limbo Monster, don't know. So yeah, I think George is sticking with uh, finishing stuff with the Supo story and then maybe going from there afterwards. Why did George choose the devil instead of God? Now he's not going to heaven. Cause I guess he God had the day off. I don't know. Why can't the Royal Grog say we do it? So I when I was writing the Royal Grog, I wanted him to be the main source of comedy in the episode. And like it's so simple just just allowing him to say we do it. But there's something kind of interesting about the fact that he can't say it for some reason. So he's got a button that says it, which is in his voice. So like there's no proper reason why he can't say it. It was just a funny bit that I thought would land well for the comedic part of the episode. And it seems like it's actually gone down really well. How long did this take? So the last episode specifically, I'd written it somewhat last year, somewhat the year before. There are some parts that I had written down for years that were just not connected to any story that I then implemented into this. But in terms of making it, I started making it in January, I think, was when I started making it. I had to wait a couple of weeks for certain stuff because Will was busy at the start of January and George is a pain for sending stuff through. So like their stuff I had to wait a little bit to do with that. So I wanted it to go out in February, but I couldn't get stuff done quick enough to be able to do that. So that it's not just them, by the way. That's also somewhat my fault. But yeah, I wanted it to be out in February. I wanted it to take a month or two. It took a little bit longer than that. But yeah, so yeah, that's how long it took. Will you be able to leave? Okay, fine. I'll leave. I've probably been here for like an hour as it is, so see you. Cool.